What's up, everybody? What is up? What is up? What is good? Hope you guys are doing all right out there. It's got real dusty. I think one of those bags got lots of dust in it, so a little bit sniffly, I think, from the allergies. But anyways, we're excited. We got 5 rag bags today. It's been a good day, much milder, much more mild than it has been before. So, like normal, please hit the comment the chat and let me know that you can hear me and all is good, so we can just make sure that we're good to go here. Otherwise, remember, feel free to ask questions about anything vintage as we go through today. If you've never been to or watched a rag bag live stream before, we will be opening up these rag bags that I buy from local thrift stores that typically, great, thank you, that typically bag these up for like mechanic shops or wood refinishing companies to clean up all their mess. So I buy them because I mostly fill them with T-shirts, and they're not going through them and specifically, identifying T-shirts that may or may not be valuable. So I get to get in the middle of all of that and potentially find some valuable T-shirts. If you've been watching for any measure of time, you know that we found some pretty amazing T-shirts out of these bags. So you never know what's going to happen. I don't know what they end up what they put in them week to week. So when I open them and I see them for the first time, you're seeing them for the first time. So it should be exciting. So let's go ahead and let's set up our first bag. Got this one right here. Pretty good size bag. I think they've got the weight and the back to normal. Some of the bags were a little light last couple of weeks. What is up? Good to have you guys in the chat. Good to have you guys here watching the show, hanging out. I hope your sales are doing all right. If you want to brag on yourself about what you found this week in the thrift store, do so in the chat. We'd love to hear. Yeah, let's find something great because the last few weeks haven't been like. I probably just made my money back and a little bit of then some. So hasn't been too bad, but also hasn't been like some of the weeks that we've had where we've led like like 10 vintage wrestling tees all in one bag. Yeah, unless you buy your donation. There could be some leftovers from that donation. Golly. I can't believe that happened. I've tried so hard to avoid that happening. We have a older. Is this old? No, not old Disney. But last week wasn't too bad. We had a handful of T-shirts that were worth some money. We have a Walmart Pink Floyd tee. Find a lot of those, unfortunately. But I hope you guys thrifts have been treating you well this week. Last week we did not get into very many thrifts. That's why there wasn't a top 5 thrift finds. We had a lot of other things going on that we were trying to stay ahead of. So we did not get into very many thrifts. I did go thrifting, just not very many, so nothing particularly interesting. So this week, hopefully, I'll get back to some of the normal spots that I try to hit and try to find some good stuff. Today was already pretty good. Got some denim in, some really interesting, bizarre denim. It's the Sonic. Some sort of some unusual pieces of denim, but stuff I have to probably look over. Hopefully your sales were good too. My sales were incredible over the weekend. Sold a lot of jackets. I think we sold 3 or 4 jackets. 1, 2, 3, 4 jackets over $100 a piece. So that was pretty wild. So that was pretty cool. Really, really excited about that. Otherwise, sales were also good. All for other things too. Sold a lot of jeans. With this inflationary market and everything being so like unsure of, it's tough to be confident that you're going to get any serious sales. So and if people are going to spend on what would probably be considered somewhat of a luxury item, random vintage clothing that they collect. So we'll see. We will see what we have here. This is nothing. I'm not feeling too good about this particular bag here, ladies and gentlemen. I just see a lot of new stuff, lots of new stuff. I saw that Florida's going to be cold, or it was cold today, or it's going to be cold, even in South Florida. If any of you guys are from there, all my family's from South Florida. Oh, this looks cool. Made in USA, Gerber. Look at that. 1993 Warner Brothers. It's just like a kid's little kid's blanket, little sheet, but that's pretty cool. Sometimes that stuff does okay. You'd be surprised what like random stuff like that does, how well it can do. So that was made by Gerber. That's interesting. Little PSA. If you have sent questions in to my email about certain, like Levi's or anything, I'm a bit behind. I've had a ton of questions, tons of interest as of late. So I've been making progress slowly, trying to give everybody as a thorough answer as I can give. So just heads up, if you've got a question in the queue, I will get to it. I hope. If for some reason I don't, just resend it, and I will do my best to answer your questions. Yeah, it's been a pretty wild weekend for questions. It's had maybe a dozen a day over the weekend, so that was awesome. But also, it takes time for me to get through that stuff. What do we have here? Looks like we have an old. Well, it was a Nautica t-shirt. It's not anymore. Yeah, you saw the interview. I did an interview. If you haven't checked it out, go to the community tab on the channel page, and there's a link. My most recent post, I think it's my most recent post. I did an interview with Barry from Classic Menswear channel, and his stuff is really interesting. He found my channel because he had bought some Levi's and wasn't sure if they were vintage or not, and so he found my video and it helped him determine whether or not they were vintage. And so he wanted to interview me for his channel. So I enjoyed the conversation. It was really good. All right, let's go to bag number 2. Bag number 1 was a complete dud. You guys know that sometimes happens. It often happens. One bag is typically, there's at least one bag that's not good every time we go through here. So what the heck is this? It's a cut sleeves. What's the graphic on it? Walking Dead, I think, right? Yeah. One day those Walking Dead tees are going to be like super collectibles. So everyone's going to, whenever they get nostalgic for their zombie movies in 15 years, 20 years, hopefully you'll have a couple of those dope ones stashed away. I doubt it, actually. I don't know. I often ask myself and other people, do you think, and I'll ask you guys, do you think that vintage t-shirts in 10 years will be cool? So will it be as popular as it is today, or will in 10 years it be less popular? I'm sure there will always be some collectors out there. There will always be some collectors out there. Women's Chase Authentics is a cool shirt. But will it be a better market, more popular in 10 years, or less popular in 10 years? Because that kind of answers the question as to whether or not you stash away some tees that will become vintage. You're not right. No, you're right. Let's do it the dumbest way possible. But I think that's an interesting question. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, come on. We need something here. I need something to lift my, give me confidence in these bags again. I have gotten so many. Micah screw. That's cool. Huh. I have gotten to the point with these rag bags where they were so bad. I remember I like contemplated stop buying them, but then I had a really great day and got a really dope bag and got back into it. Do you think Tommy and Nautica will be on the upswing with all the Y2K kids? I think that's a good question. That's a really good question. I think Nautica. I think the ship has sailed. I think Nautica is probably not. Um, I think Nautica, honestly, even though I love some of the older Nautica stuff, I think Nautica got kind of sucked in with. I think it got sucked up by the updraft of Tommy, and so like when Tommy started getting cool again, I think I think Nautica sort of was like the second fiddle to that. So I don't think you'll see Nautica get too hot again, like it was in like 2017, 2016. We got some Amazon Captain's Tee, super dumb. Yeah, totally. Like I mean I'm gonna be what is this? Oh, we got a vintage, big old vintage cow tee, single stitch. I'll take what I can get. Oh man, that's okay. So that's tough. So will vintage go up or down? I think so. It's tough to say because we just came out of a whole season where people were getting free money, people were at home, nothing to do but surf the internet. Um, Prior to that, there was a pretty big hype build up of the vintage world with TV shows like Slavy's World, stuff like that. So I think like just like in like sports cards markets are experiencing now too, there's sort of a drop off and it's a lull, and I think we're sort of feeling that lull. Personally, I think I am. I'm not seeing t-shirts go for as much as I used to see them go for, but all that to say, the macro trend of people buying secondhand used clothes, that market is growing, because it's environmentally friendly. Um, it's still pretty cool. There's a lot of cool styles out there. It's cheap. So environmentally friendly, cheap, all those things are going to keep secondhand clothing. I think that market will continue to go. So yeah. So should you hold and sell or sell your vintage? Uh, I think you should always be selling something. Um, Now, if you're collecting something very specific, then collect it and enjoy it. It's not about whether or not it's worth money. But like, I think the 90s trend will chill out a little bit. So some of the 90s stuff, I think in the next 5 years won't be as a big deal. But just like with old vintage Levi's, the older it gets, the harder it is to find. So you might, you might get some pretty significant uh, price hikes and value increases with very specific, like high end pieces, like hard to find pieces. Oh man, Ryan, 4 hours of snow shoveling, dude. We had snow. Was it like a couple like last week? And it was like it wasn't that big. It was like so not a big deal. I think we got like 2 feet. No, 2 feet, and that's ridiculous. No, I think we got like 2 to 4 inches, something like that. I if it's gonna snow, I just want it to snow like crazy, and then get it over with. Yeah, I mean the that is a bigger trend than I think the vintage specific, like this. I think the secondhand trend. So I think the secondhand purchasing of clothing for environmental reasons and for the cost value of it is a bigger trend than the interest in vintage clothing, because I think it's broader. There's more appeal to it. Um, if you think about it to some degree, vintage has always been interesting to people. I mean, there's always been somebody referencing, in their modern clothes from another era. So I don't necessarily that it ever goes away or anything, but I think right now the vintage world kind of got caught up with the hype beast world, and I think some of the hype beasts who are buying Supreme and Off White, they were starting to get their hands and their minds around vintage clothing, and that some of that sort of took the price up. Whether or not that stays the trend long term, I don't know. I think it's probably unlikely. All right, bag number 3. I think we've got one vintage tee. That's not a good way. That's not a good start to this evening. Not a good start at all. Come on, we got to find something to save us here. Maybe they're getting wise. Maybe this thrift store is just starting to realize that they start throwing junk in here and sell the nice stuff on eBay or something. Sure hope not. That'd be really frustrating. Yeah, tell me about it. Like the bikes that you can buy at Walmart are crap. My gosh. Um, I mean, they are the big textile companies have done it. They've done I mean, fast fashion is pretty well known. It's pretty established. The question is, does the consumer? And I think the consumer realizes fast fashion isn't good for the environment. It's not good quality clothes. Like you can get higher quality clothing at a similar price as fast fashion, but it's made of 100% cotton, so it's not going to waste away in 2 years. So I think the consumer, especially consumers who are thinking like more health consciously about what they're eating and stuff like that. What do we got here? Oh, we got a vintage Wilson's athletic wear t-shirt. Probably not really all that significant or valuable, but it's there. Um, I own it, so I might as well try to sell it. Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, rag bags. I mean, it's like the thrill of finding something ultimately has to outweigh the disappointment, and typically it does. So, like missing on a lot of bags and then hitting a banger, feels really really good. Um, and maybe more so when you've had um, a long history of missing for a couple weeks straight. So um, just got into reselling vintage clothing. Any tips on differentiating between the valuable and non-desirable vintage clothing? Graphic tee. Okay, yeah. So specifically graphic tees. So here's a deal with graphic tees, specifically vintage t-shirts. Obviously, band tees are going to be big. Anything that has a pop culture reference, like that's going to be good. If it's vintage and a pop culture reference, snack tees, cereal tees, movie promo tees, band tees, vintage Nike tees, stuff like that. Like all of that is going to be valuable. You'll find a market for that somewhere. Um, the next sort of area of vintage t-shirts specifically that are like unique and like a niche is like Jesus tees, like Christian Jesus design tees that are collectible that people sort of collect. Like those are really weird because some of them are really like can actually fetch quite a bit of money and some don't, aren't worth the cotton they're printed on. So like it can be hit or miss. But if you focus on like pop cultural references, those are gonna probably hit some. You're gonna find someone will be there to buy it and pay decent money for it. Um, the I get lots of random vintage clothing. Like let's take for example this cow tee, right? So this cow tee is single stitch. It's vintage. It's probably from like the mid to early 90s. It's pretty wacky. It's got a huge graphic. Like, this is gonna sell. It's not gonna sell for much. I'll probably get 15 to 20 bucks, but I paid $6 for the bag, so whatever. Um, you kind of have to get your head around what someone might want to buy. Someone's not gonna probably buy a vintage local softball league t-shirt. So don't spend your money on that. But someone might buy a big, make a big old graphic cow t-shirt just because people are, they think it's funny, or they have, there's a cow t-shirt collector. I don't know. So yeah, I mean, specifically graphic tees. I have a video, Jonathan. I have a video on my YouTube channel. I'm trying to remember the title of it. I can't remember the exact title of it. It's like how to know whether or not your vintage clothing is valuable, or how to find out the value of your vintage clothing. And it basically helps you go and look at the sold listings on eBay and search for your item and figure out what it might have sold for previously. That's the best way to be sure that something that you're buying, trying to resell, is going to be worth it, is to double check that it's sold for a decent price in the past. So if you haven't seen that video, check it out. It might be helpful. That's probably the number one thing you could do. Can you tell the vintage tee only from the feel of the fabric since you put your hands on? Oh, yeah. I yes, sometimes. So like when I grabbed this tee, I could feel the sort of I could feel that it's 100% cotton, so I knew that's at least one sign. Um, and like modern tees, like this guy right here, this is like this is like a Sonic t-shirt, like company t-shirt. It's like it's stretchy, it feels thinner. You kind of have this little rubbery plastic feel to some degree. It's the nylon, or it's the polyester blends that are in there that are giving that feel. So yeah, I can do somewhat, but I can do the field test better with vintage jeans than I can with t-shirts. In fact, I've been thinking about doing a game where like my wife goes into our inventory and grab and maybe some random jeans that we buy, some new jeans, and if I see if I can tell the difference with my eyes closed. I think most of the time I could get it right, but it might be tough. If you didn't know this is interesting somewhat. Well, here's what I do. When I'm at the thrift store, I go through jeans. I actually search the jeans by feel almost entirely. Um, I'm almost not looking at the jean I'm not like examining each jean one by one. I'm literally just feeling for the thicker, heavier denim, so heavier ounce denim, which is almost, you know, it's pretty much indicative of a vintage pair of jeans. Modern denim weights are very low compared to vintage, so I'm feeling for the more heavier, denser denims when I'm going to a thrift store, and that helps me sort of not have to look at every single one, uh, and helps me find more quality denim. But it's funny because Faded Glory, you guys probably know them as from them being sold at Walmart for a long, long time. They basically tried to in the 90s completely copy Levi's denim jeans. So the only brand that like really throws me off, if I'm holding if I'm holding a pair of vintage Levi's and a pair of vintage Faded Glory, I'm gonna have a hard time with that one. That's the hardest one. I can probably tell you the difference just by feel between Lee and Levi's and Wrangler and Levi's, but Faded Glory and Levi's, they feel very, very, very similar. All right, bag number 4. Right at the top, we have this Hanes Herway sweatshirt. I don't know, probably nothing. We've got then some other junk Junk. We have some sheets, baby sheets. Come on now. Nope, nothing. We got a towel. If some of you guys have been around for a while, you remember that like something like a year ago, we did a rag bag. We opened up rag bags, and we pulled out a bunch of towels. Turns out they were like vintage collectible Ralph Lauren towels, and I sold them for like $100. So towels, don't ever count towels out. Yeah, some older, yeah, Urban Pipeline stuff is a little bit thicker. Yeah. Um, I'm real curious if we're gonna see, and I kind of feel like we are a little bit. The early 2000s had that. You guys remember like Trip pants and all the bondage gothic jeans in the like the vinyl pants that were huge and big. Around that early 2000s, I'm kind of wondering if culture sort of drifts back into some of that. So wider pants. No, I mean skinny jeans are dead. Wider pants are coming back. Do we see some of pop culture trend in that direction with some of the the big Trip pants, bondage, and all kinds of vinyl and stuff? I have a feeling that some of that's coming back. I do sell I sell Trip pants really easily, real quick. They don't last long in the store, so um, I wonder if we'll start seeing something like that. I do know that bootcut is one of the most popular uh, bootcut style jeans are some of the most popular jeans I'm selling right now. Like I sell bootcuts faster than just about any other style right now. Faster than women's high rise like mom jeans. So maybe we'll start seeing the wide leg jeans come back pretty strong. Um, I wonder if we'll get that early 2000s goth look come back at all. So what's the best advice you can give to somebody who into reselling vintage jeans clothes? Plus, can somebody make a good amount of money from only reselling? Um, so I'll take the first question. Um, the first question first. Um, oh, we got a vintage tee. First of all, it's a vintage Niagara Falls tee. It's just on a Fruit of the Loom best Fruit of the Loom made in Canada. It's the Canada version. Don't see that one that often. The best piece of advice is if you're gonna resell vintage clothing, vintage jeans, like you need to research. You need to understand, learn as much about the culture as possible. The whole goal of you being success, the whole way you become successful in reselling vintage clothing is not necessarily um, having the widest audience or something like that, or reaching the most people. It's you being able to, in a thrift store or a garage sale or flea market, you are able to recognize value that other people don't. So that means that's where you're going to get the best deals, and you need to be able to recognize that. I've probably missed so many crazy opportunities in the past because I wasn't aware of something's value. So that means watching videos like the stuff we produce, or I mean, I learned a lot from the early days, like Paul Cantu, just what he was picking up, he thought was cool, some of the valuable stuff, and then seeing somebody pick those things up, and then I go research on eBay, see what they sold for, and then while I'm out thrifting and stuff, I'm recognizing, oh, here's a like back in like 2016, I picked up this super dope Tommy Hilfiger sailing jacket with all the color blocks. I wouldn't have recognized. In fact, that summer prior to picking that Tommy piece up, I had been told by another reseller that Tommy Hilfiger wasn't like a big deal and I should just skip over it in the thrift store. What they really meant was the newer Tommy Hilfiger stuff. They didn't really know anything about the vintage stuff, but it was because I watched other people do it and learned what was in demand and what was valuable, that I was able to recognize this jacket and this big, warehouse of junk and was able to pull it out and sold it for like $200. So back in the heyday of the resurgence of Tommy. So the best thing you can do is learn what has value. And then when you're out, you can recognize it. And I know that there's a broad swath of things that have value. So like maybe it's hard to do because where you're going to start. But I probably started mostly with just Levi's. It was like, hey, I find lots of Levi's. I found out that they were valuable. Then I realized that they're all the different, levels of Levi's. And when I'm out, when I was out the first time, I remember finding my first selvage denim jeans, and I wouldn't have recognized their value had I not, spent time watching videos and researching and stuff. So beyond all the mechanics of reselling and all that stuff, the best thing you can do is learn what has value. Figure that out. Now, for the second question, can somebody make a good amount of money from only reselling? And the truth is, yes, you can make a good amount of money. I was doing this part-time before I was doing it full-time. I'm doing it full-time now. I'm doing YouTube and this. That's the only way I make money. And I make enough money for my family to live full-time here. And the great thing about reselling is that the sky's the limit. The limit of what I can make is really up to me. It's what I can find and what I can sell. And so as long as I can keep that growing, I can make a great amount of money. Now you can do it part-time and make a good amount of money. When I was doing it part-time, I was making just as much at my full-time job as I was on my part-time job, which, then made sense for just go ahead and do the full-time reselling. So even part-time, you can do pretty good. It takes time, learn education. It may take a few years to really get all the knowledge that you need to really be flexible out in the thrift, but you can definitely do it. So now I do want to say, like, just because it's possible doesn't mean it's easy. And I don't want people to think that like reselling is just the super easy thing to make millions and be rich. Like, I mean, there are times when it's a difficult thing because you're running your own business. So if you don't work, you don't make money. If you don't make a sale, you don't make money. Nobody else is, picking up the slack for you. He's got my 6. Got a Jesus tee here. It doesn't look vintage. Unfortunately, this would have been a cool t-shirt if it was vintage. It's not. Yeah. So it's not easy, but you can do it. Just have to. And the great thing about reselling is you can do it part-time, and you can do it part-time until it's worth doing it full-time. So it's incremental. All right, last bag, folks. This bag has got to save us because today has been one of the worst rag bag days in a long time. Hate saying that, but I have said that before. And then the very last bag be the best bag we've ever opened. So we'll see. Complain and we gain. We're going to complain and then gain. I don't know if that's how it works, but we'll see. What do we got here? We got a Browning t-shirt. Shotgun manufacturer. We got a Croft and Borrow. Come on, man. We got to find something. I do want to mention on the topic of reselling. I know I don't put out a ton of like how to resell videos. And it's mostly because, like I said before, the most important and valuable thing, in my opinion, is the knowledge of what and to be able to recognize something's value and recognize where the market is for something. But all the nuts and bolts, I don't cover it that often because I'm focused on the first things first. But there are a lot of other fantastic YouTube channels that cover the nuts and bolts of reselling. Obviously, I think one that really helped me out in the early days was Rally Roots, which I think they're doing their live stream right now. I think we do our live streams at the exact same time. Um, uh, but Rally Roots, Rockstar Flipper, um, those two YouTube channels have been real helpful for me in the past. Um, a couple other people I'm trying to remember. Commonwealth Picker is pretty good. There's a lot of great people out there. Tons of people. Do you know how much about the do I know much about the Coogee sweater styles and how much they're worth and how they're priced? Yeah. I've sold many Coogee sweaters in the past. Um, the thing about Coogee sweaters, this is what's difficult about Coogee sweaters with pricing and stuff, is that just about every Coogee sweater is unique. Like there's really like I've never seen one that's the same thing as another one. Um, I've seen hundreds at this point. Um, so they're all unique, and so some are crazier looking than others. So like if you actually have a Coogee sweater, we have something here. We have something. It's not very old. I think it's. Well, let's see. We have the Hunger Games. May the odds ever be in your favor. This is a 2012. This is one of the movie promo tees, so not too bad. I think it smells like smoke, so I'm gonna have to get the smoke smell out of it. But so the Coogee prices are all over the place. Oh, we have a vintage Ducks Unlimited T-shirt. We'll see what happens. The Coogee sweaters. Let me get through that. The Coogee sweaters are all over the place. They're all unique. The Coogee style sweaters obviously are going to be less valuable than Coogee themselves. I've sold Coogee sweaters from $300 to $500. I've seen Coogee sweaters go for even more than that. I think one time I even saw a Coogee sweater that went for a whole grip. So like, for a whole rack. Like, there's some valuable Coogee sweaters. But there is also like a whole subgenre of like Coogee sweater ripoffs. Tundra. Tundra. There's a company called Tundra that does it. What's the other one? It'll come to me. But there's a couple other companies that do that, and those are definitely going to be less expensive. They're not typically as high quality, and they're not typically as oh wow, look at this. They're not typically as cool as the original Coogees. Got another Hunger Games tee. I don't know if this looks like it might be one of the movie promos. It had a hole in it. But clearly somebody's like was a big Hunger Games fan and a fan of like Marlboros. Hey man, yeah, totally. My pleasure, man. I try to do my best to keep up with questions, and I was talking to everybody earlier. I've just been getting a lot lately, so if I'm slow to get around to your question, just either hold on for a little bit or re-ask it. But yeah, I'm always willing to try to be helpful, because I remember growing up in like 15, 16 doing this, and it was hard and I didn't even know where to go to find good information. And a lot of times people are a little bit sus about giving out too much information because they don't want to give away their secret sauce. You know what I mean? They don't want to give away too much information that makes more competitors. In fact, I first started the channel. I started and then I stopped because I was like, man, am I just making a bunch of competition for myself? It took me a little while to realize that that's not really true. And overall, if I'm teaching people how to recognize like valuable vintage stuff, it's really actually broadening the market, because there'll be more people involved. Hopefully more people start collecting, and and that everyone wins in that case. So that's kind of was my philosophy getting back into it. So what platform should I start on with reselling? I'm planning on using Depop. Depop's good. I left Depop earlier on, like a couple years ago. because there were a lot of features that weren't compatible with um, my fundamental business, which was on eBay. It just was really complicated to cross post things, and at the time, you could only post using your phone, which was really frustrating and not worth my time because I use my laptop for eBay a lot. So it just didn't make a lot of sense to do that. But I recently got back on Depop as of like a month ago, and I started adding listings, and um, you can now uh, you can now repost, or you can now create listings with on your computer. There's a lot of drawbacks to some degree, but it is a place where there's a lot of vintage buyers. So that's probably its biggest advantage. eBay has far more buyers, but there's just so much volume there that you can kind of get lost in the wash. So uh, I would say eBay too, but if you feel like you can't handle all the complexities of and the sort of scope of eBay, Depop is good. Yeah, Ryan, I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. Like the truth is that nobody's got real secret sauce. Now, I will say, I'll say the one caveat that I personally have with that is I'm probably if we hang out and we talk and we're swapping reselling stories and tips and tricks, I will probably tell you everything about my business and about what makes me successful or not successful, except some of my secret sourcing locations. That I'm gonna play that one a little closer to my chest. So uh, that's probably the only thing I wouldn't share. And historically is the only thing I don't really talk specifically about um, on the channel. Not that there's like anyone around here in my area that's going to compete with me per se, but uh, yeah, that's probably the only thing that I'm like a little hesitant to give up is the honey holes. Yeah. So I'll tell you everything else, but you're gonna have to find the places to get the sourcing material. That's gonna be on you. Not I'm not I can tell you what kind of places. People ask me all the time, where should I go to find? I'm like, well, you can look here things places you haven't probably thought of, like flea markets and um, garage sales, estate sales, stuff like that. But the specifics, you're gonna have to do the work yourself, because some of these places took me a long time to find, so I don't want to ruin them. So, um, but that's for sure. Uh, and I love talking to resellers. There's not a ton of them around here, um, but like I run into them when we're on the road, when we do long thrift trips. Which, by the way, um, I guess I can go ahead and announce it now. I haven't really. Last year kind of made it a little bit more formal, but I'll go ahead and tell you guys, all 16 of you that are here. Every year, if you're fairly new to the channel, we go to we take a um, we take a week long trip throughout the country. So we start here in southern Missouri, and hey, Kelsey, good to see you. We take our trip throughout the country, and we thrift for 7 days or more straight. So that being said, last year we did like Kansas, Oklahoma, down into Texas, down into Houston, back up through Arkansas. That was sort of circle we did. Um, I haven't solidified the route yet. Um, I don't know if I'll go farther east this time or farther west or farther north. Um, Probably not farthest. We might go farther south. Who knows? But I will let you guys know when the route is settled and the week that we will be traveling. Typically, it's like me, my brother-in-law, and my brother. So we'll see if everyone will show up, if they can get on board. And we might be coming to visit your city and your thrift stores. Sorry if we're going to steal some of your stuff, uh, but hopefully, maybe you'll just have it taken care of before we get there. But if we do come to your town, we'll let you know, and maybe we can grab lunch. Probably won't. I don't know, man. Hey, my most of my family is in Florida, right? So I'm coming down to Florida more than I go on this big thrift trip. So, um, oh yeah, dude, no legit. We'll hit some thrift store, Kansas City probably, because my brother lives in Kansas City. Um, my brother lives in downtown. Well, he lives in downtown Kansas City now. I think he's moving out, um, towards Grandview. Um, but we'll probably if he comes on the board, we'll probably drive up there and start in Kansas City. So yeah, we'll hook it up. We'll hit some thrifts for sure. And we might get there like the night before and we can hang out. Oh, hey, that's not a bad idea, Ryan. Maybe we can do maybe we can do that rag bag battle we talked about. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll do like maybe we'll do the sort of what do they call that, the northern Midwest or whatever it's called. I don't know. But that might be fun. Not that would be like Minnesota. The Iron Belt, the Rust Belt, whatever they call it, something like that. Maybe that's derogatory. Sorry if it is. But yeah, dude. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll go like Illinois, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, that way. But I'll let you know. We will announce it. It's a daily blog event, so we thrift all day. We bring you along that journey, and we video that night or for the next morning. So it's pretty wild. Last time we did it, we did 106 thrift stores, I think is the number. We did 6 days, 106 thrift stores. It was balls to the wall. It was really intense. Found some really cool stuff. Got to see some really cool places. So one of my favorite things that happens all year. Like I went to Disney this for Christmas. I'm probably more excited for this thing than I am for Disney. One car, you'd be surprised how much you can squeeze in a car, if you're willing to be a little uncomfortable. And when we do this big trip, we are very, very selective. So, like, we're like really selective. So if it doesn't sort of meet certain standards for resale, like in value, we're gonna probably leave it just because you're right. With one car, that can be a lot of inventory. And this probably doesn't surprise you guys at all, but there were times when we went to I think we went to it's like Wichita, and it was like I don't think we bought a single thing in the entire city because it was just already cleaned out. So sometimes you just don't, because we're only in there for like 30 minutes of one day, and if it's been cleaned out, it's cleaned out. So you might be surprised at how little you buy, and especially if you're trying to be really, really selective. So this year should be really fun. Hopefully meet some of you guys out there, and hopefully we'll find a lot of stuff. We've had some great luck in the past, and it's been a lot of fun. So anyway, I do want to give any, if you have questions, go ahead and ask them now, because we're about to sign off. We're going to wrap it up here. I did end the last bag. I didn't really make much a big deal about it, but our recap is this Vintage Ducks Unlimited t-shirt. We have 2 smoke ridden Hunger Games movie promo tees. These are probably $15 tees once they're cleaned up. This Niagara Falls tee, which I might not even try to sell. It's such a small tee, or such a small graphic. It's probably not really worth it. I guess maybe this is sad to say, but this is the best t-shirt all day. That's kind of sad, but I think it might be. So, oh well. Let's see. Oh, no, it doesn't have a date. But that's about it. It was pretty sad, unfortunately. But there's always next week, right? There's always next week. Anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Hope you guys are having a great day. Get out in the thrifts, find some gold. Let us know what you found. While we're on the live stream or any of the comments on our videos, we'd love to hear it. So we'll see you guys later. Have a good one. Peace.